Trump's unexpected gift that turned haters into believers. Imagine a moment so charged with disbelief and curiosity that even the most cynical onlookers couldn't tear their eyes away. In a single day, everything they assumed about Trump flipped upside down, all because of a mysterious and inexplicable gift. One so out of character for the persona they thought they knew, it made even his harshest critics pause and reconsider their stance. Stay with me until the very end of this story, because as incredible as it sounds, the final twist involves a hidden meaning to that gift, something that not only astonished an entire city, but also revealed a side of Trump most people never suspected existed. The entire saga began in a coastal metropolis known for its stark divides between glossy wealth and those who struggled at the periphery. On one side, towering skyscrapers with tinted windows overshadowed penthouses, gourmet eateries, and boutique shops. On the other side, cramped blocks with struggling businesses, families in dimly lit apartment windows, and sidewalks that never felt quite safe after sundown. This city, ironically, prided itself on being forward-thinking and globally minded. But truth be told, it was a place of swirling social tensions, especially whenever the name Trump came up. Residents had strong, polarizing views. Some revered his approach to business, praising him as a visionary who championed confidence and ambition. Others loathed him, calling him an emblem of greed or a profiteer who cared little for the common folk. That's the background. Then arrived a rumor as improbable as it was captivating. "He's planning something big here," said a snippet in local chatter. But no one knew what. Speculation soared. Some guessed real estate expansions, perhaps the unveiling of yet another tower or brand extension. A group of cynics believed it was a political move. Online comment sections lit up with arguments, with critics rolling their eyes, expecting the usual fanfare and an entourage of cameras. But the city's mood was more annoyance than excitement. What does he want now? Days passed. Then an anonymous tip landed at the desk of a local journalist, telling her to keep eyes on the decrepit district near the harbor. That tip claimed Trump staff had discreetly scouted the area, taking notes about old warehouses, dusty lots, and battered shipping containers. Why would a figure known for glitz be interested in a run-down corner of the harbor? The journalist found herself enthralled. She grabbed a camera and spent nights driving up and down deserted piers, peering at darkened windows and padlocked fences. At last, an odd sign. Unmarked vehicles pulling up to an abandoned lot, with men in suits stepping out under cover of twilight, measuring distances, checking the ground. From a distance, you could see them conferring with local utility workers. A hush overshadowed these visits. No insignias, no official statements. The journalist tried to follow them, but they dispersed quickly. Rumors swelled. Trump is probably plotting a flashy development that displaces locals. No, he's building a private yacht club. Could be some hush-hush deal with city authorities. Nothing fit quite right, though. Observers noticed no bulldozers, no large-scale machinery, just quiet, secretive gatherings. Then, out of nowhere, an invite hit the city's influential people and media. Join us at the Harbor District, Monday at noon, for a presentation by Trump. The city council members got them, top journalists got them, even local activists who disliked him were included. This was uncharacteristically inclusive. The invitation didn't detail what the meeting was about, only that a project significant to the entire city would be announced, and all are welcome. The local rumor mill exploded. People braced for a massive unveiling that might change their skyline. When Monday arrived, the entire city's eyes were fixed on that battered harbor. By midday, a crowd assembled at the formerly abandoned lot. The contrast was stark. Well-dressed elites trying not to soil their shoes on cracked pavement, community organizers scowling in corners, workers standing around, uncertain. The press hovered with cameras poised, half expecting some lavish stage and fireworks. But to everyone's surprise, the scene was minimal. Just a hastily erected platform, a microphone, and behind it a tall rectangular object draped in cloth, about the size of a moving truck. A hush of confusion settled. People scanned the area for any sign of heavy construction or real estate signage, but found none. And then, casually as though strolling through his living room, Trump arrived. In typical events, he might have shown up with bodyguards, but this time he walked with only a small entourage. Observers noted his calm expression, lacking the flamboyance they anticipated. He greeted a few folks in passing, took the platform, and with uncharacteristic brevity, thanked the city for gathering. No boasting, no extended self-praise. The crowd murmured. This was a different vibe than usual. He then announced, "I want to share something that has become very personal to me, an unexpected gift. Or perhaps it's better to call it my gift to you." The phrase triggered a wave of confusion. A gift? For who? For the entire city? Observers started to suspect a public relations stunt. So he continued, referencing time he'd spent reading letters from city residents, letters that pointed to decades of struggling communities overshadowed by large projects that never served them. He admitted, with a self-deprecating chuckle, that he initially came to the harbor with the usual intentions, presumably meaning a development plan. But something changed, he said. He realized the real need wasn't to add more gleaming towers or fancy marinas. It was about reviving and supporting local life that had long been neglected. At that moment, a large mechanical hum started behind the draped rectangle. On Trump's signal, staff removed the cloth, revealing an industrial shipping container, newly painted a bright, uplifting color with the word hope scrawled across its side. The crowd remained perplexed. A shipping container as a gift? That's it? Maybe a reference to delivering goods? Some onlookers stifled laughs. Others waited to see if this was a metaphor. Then the container's doors swung open, unveiling a remarkable sight. Inside was a fully equipped, portable medical clinic, complete with essential medical devices, solar-powered backups, fold-out exam tables, and shelves of supplies. The gathered journalists and city officials leaned forward in shock. That's definitely not the standard showy build. This was compact, purposeful, resembling something used in humanitarian missions overseas. Trump explained that, after seeing firsthand the local hospital closures and the countless families traveling far for basic care, he collaborated quietly away from headlines with medical NGOs to create a series of pop-up clinics. This container was the first of many planned. It was loaded with resources for basic checkups, minor procedures, vaccinations, maternal health, mental health counseling, and more. And the biggest twist? There would be no cost to the patients. The staff would be volunteers from rotating medical teams and philanthropic groups, funded personally by him for the next 5 years. By the time he finished describing the plan, you could almost hear jaws dropping across the lot. Skeptics, though, were sure there was a catch. They peppered him with questions. What about staffing? Where's the bureaucracy? Are you trying to bypass city regulations? He responded calmly that all needed permits had been coordinated. Doctors from recognized groups had signed up. The container clinic would rotate through underserved neighborhoods every 2 weeks. Another staffer stepped up to confirm the details, explaining how each container unit was modular, could be scaled up, or combined with additional specialized units for dental or pediatrics. Then came the kicker, and I intend to place not 1, not 10, but more than 30 such container clinics all around the city over the next year, Trump declared. He held up official documents, apparently confirming the philanthropic program was fully funded by a trust he'd set up. A hush resonated. 30 clinics? Free medical help? Yes, certain cynics hammered him with. Are you branding them with your name? Are you using them for politics? He shook his head. My name won't appear on them, except maybe a small mention so folks know who to contact for expansions. But the goal is not to trumpet me. It's to fill a real gap. This hammered in the point that it wasn't about advertising or parading a brand, as so many had come to expect from him. It was, shockingly, just about providing something meaningful, unexpectedly philanthropic. Critics who'd shown up prepared to lambast a new real estate scheme were momentarily speechless. The people who once spat vitriol at the mention of him found themselves reconsidering. After all, what do you do when confronted with a gift that addresses a dire civic need? But the unveiling was only half the saga. Within a week, the first container clinic opened in the southwestern corner of the city, an area battered by industrial decline. On day 1, Lines wrapped around the block. Parents seeking checkups for kids, seniors with nowhere else to go, or underinsured adults who saw a glimmer of hope. Medical volunteers scrambled to keep pace, some tearing up at the sight of neighbors hugging each other in relief after receiving basic care. Observers posted videos on social media. I never believed I'd see the day. Trump stepped up with free clinics? Feels surreal. The comment sections exploded with disbelief, cautious praise, and sarcasm. What's the hidden angle? Many demanded. Maybe he's filming a documentary. But no cameras, no press teams, just normal coverage from local bloggers and folks with smartphones. In parallel, a small group of outraged cynics refused to accept a philanthropic angle. They insisted it was a Trojan horse or a PR stunt. Some organized small protests near the container clinics, chanting about how he's bribing our trust or he only pretends to care. But those protests fizzled quickly once local patients shared success stories, like the mother whose child's ear infection got immediate treatment, or the diabetic man who finally found stable insulin supplies. The cynics found themselves overshadowed by grateful families testifying about what these clinics had done for them. At city council meetings, officials recognized that, ironically, these container clinics were spurring them to expedite infrastructure improvements. They debated hooking them up to permanent water lines, better roads, or expanded outreach. A councilman confided, "It's embarrassing that we, as a city, left these neighborhoods without basic services for so long that an outsider had to come fix it." Another council member retorted, "Don't forget, he used to be part of big business that overshadowed communities. Is he just rectifying past harms?" The debates raged. The press tried cornering Trump for interviews, but he gave minimal statements, something about letting the clinics speak for themselves. So how did the haters turn into believers? It wasn't immediate. Plenty remained suspicious. Yet, story after story of real people benefiting from the clinics chipped away at hostility. Local father of four Manny Delgado posted an emotional video. "I hated everything about him, sworn I'd never accept anything from that side. But when your kid's sick and you have no money, you swallow pride. They saved my child's life." Manny's tear-stained gratitude reached viral status, prompting an avalanche of personal testimony from others. Over time, these once hostile voices softened, at least acknowledging that if nothing else, the clinics saved lives. "I still don't like the man for everything else," wrote one blogger, "but you can't deny what's happening here is good. Maybe that means we should re-examine our prejudices." Of course, some partisans tried to weaponize the moment. They wanted to paint it as a cunning gambit to seduce poor voters. But as weeks passed and no political event or campaign launch arrived, that narrative lost steam. Indeed, local politicos confessed in private, he's not capitalizing on this. It's baffling. Another rumor claimed he had personally visited clinics incognito, speaking to patients, taking notes on how to improve. A small boy with a broken arm told a nurse about a tall man in a simple baseball cap who asked me if I liked reading. He gave me a book from a shelf in the container's reading nook. Then staff recognized that might have been Trump just dropping by quietly. If true, it was a side of him rarely captured in public narratives. One local activist group, previously staunch critics, publicly apologized for their knee-jerk condemnation. They wrote an open letter. "We realize we attacked the project without verifying facts. We are now volunteering at the clinics. This might be the best outcome for neighborhoods long neglected." That letter went viral too, fueling this sense that an improbable reconciliation was unfolding between Trump's harshest critics and the real-world impact of the container clinics. But is everything perfect? Hardly. Strained resources mean clinic staff sometimes run short of supplies, requiring more donors or sponsors to maintain them. The city's bureaucracy tries to hamper expansions in some neighborhoods that hold valuable land. Tensions arise between local politicians who resent that an outsider overshadowed them. A few argue that these clinics address symptoms, not root causes. Yet the net effect remains undeniably positive. Thousands receiving care, communities feeling recognized, and a wave of volunteer activism sparked by an example they never expected to see from Trump. In the midst of all this, a final, deeper truth emerges. The unexpected gift wasn't just medical care, though that was the tangible piece. The intangible gift was the impetus for communities to rally, talk to each other, unify around a shared goal of improving the city's quality of life. People who never had reason to meet from opposite sides of the social spectrum found themselves in line together, discussing the future they wanted. Volunteers from affluent backgrounds rubbed elbows with local youth to operate these clinics, forging new social links. The city's media declared it a forced experiment in empathy, crediting an improbable source, Trump. Let me ask, do you believe that when someone you despise accomplishes genuine good, it's enough to shift your perspective, or do we remain stuck in our biases? Let me know in the comments. This question is at the heart of how or whether we can come together over shared goals despite differences. Is a single philanthropic project enough to overshadow a history of disagreements? Now, weeks turned into months, and as the container clinics sustained their presence, the phrase "Trump's unexpected gift that turned haters into believers" became a rallying cry for new alliances. Neighborhood associations partnered with philanthropic groups to create after-school programs that piggybacked on the container site visits. An entire sub-economy of small vendors popped up around clinic days, selling fresh produce or crafts, generating micro-revenues for local families. Observers started calling it the container effect. Some local folks started believing that if you can unify to solve healthcare access, maybe you can unify for better housing or safer streets, too. The city's transformation was slow, of course, but the impetus from that one philanthropic gift was unmistakable. And what about Trump himself? Some watchers cynically awaited a big reveal, like an announcement that he'd leveraged goodwill to pass a private development project or lock in new city contracts. But that never came. Instead, he was spotted a few times quietly visiting a container clinic on the outskirts or meeting volunteer medics for dinner to hear about the next wave of expansions. Where was the camera crew or bragging tweets? They never materialized. Certain staff whispered, "He's changed," or "maybe he's just exploring a side we never knew." Another rumor said he told them, "If one good act can bring us even a small measure of unity, it's worth it." At the same time, longtime supporters insisted they always knew he had a philanthropic streak. Critics rolled their eyes, but with less venom than before. Step by step, real life overcame rhetorical warfare. The city's editorial boards struggled to rationalize what was happening, but in multiple editorials, they admitted that thanks to these container clinics, the local healthcare crisis was somewhat alleviated. "Numbers don't lie. Thousands have been treated," wrote one prominent editor. "We must accept that, in this instance, Trump's approach worked." The editorial also pressed City Council to replicate or expand the model. That's how, ironically, the city's political environment started pivoting to adopting more pop-up or mobile solutions for other areas: education, food banks, legal aid. The biggest testament to the success of this unexpected gift might be the shift in language used by local activists and critics. Where once they referred to him with scorn, they began to speak in more nuanced terms. "We still disagree with him on so many things, but we can't deny the container clinics are a gift to our neighborhoods." Some even publicly thanked him. Did that gratitude extend to full-blown love or support? Not necessarily, but a measure of goodwill replaced the old hostility. Because how do you maintain hatred toward someone actively alleviating medical hardship in your community? And so the question arises, can one philanthropic initiative wipe away an entire legacy of controversies or overshadow complicated aspects of a public figure's record? Maybe not fully, but it can break the cycle of negativity and open new conversations. That's exactly what happened here. Some local radio talk shows started hosting Community Bridge episodes, inviting folks from both pro and anti-Trump backgrounds to discuss how they might replicate the container clinic model in neighboring regions or states. The result was a surprising synergy, with participants admitting they'd never have sat at the same table before. And yet, here they were, brainstorming solutions together. Where does the story end? Possibly it doesn't end at all. The container clinics continued to operate, with expansions on the horizon. A year after the program's launch, a volunteer nurse posted a heartwarming scene on social media. A small boy, previously malnourished, now healthy and bounding around, hugging the staff as they packed up the container to move to the next neighborhood. Trump's unexpected gift, read the caption. Underneath that post, hundreds of comments poured in, some praising the difference made, others repeating their skepticism. But the child's grin was unstoppable. No matter how one felt about Trump, that boy's improved health was an undeniable fact. Meanwhile, city culture underwent a subtle shift. Sure, not everything was solved. The deep inequality, political polarization, and social tensions remained. But a chunk of the population recognized that if even a controversial figure could produce beneficial results, maybe labeling people as purely heroes or villains is too simplistic. Another portion of the population, newly aware that real help can come from unexpected corners, started pushing for unity-driven solutions on other issues: housing, wage fairness, etc. Whether or not Trump continued to expand his philanthropic scope, he had inadvertently sparked an era of improbable alliances, some of which carried momentum into local elections. Some say the real turning point came at a small graduation ceremony for the first group of newly trained paramedics, people who got hands-on experience working at the container clinics. They had the option to keep volunteering or move into city-run facilities. Many told local news that the spark that ignited their medical ambitions was seeing how one philanthropic push could literally save lives. "I used to think everything was about money or personal gain," a paramedic graduate said in a speech, but sometimes even a wealthy figure can provide a stepping stone for others to create genuine change. Trump, for his part, stayed out of the limelight. He didn't attend that ceremony or hold any victory lap press conference. According to rumors, he quietly sent a letter of congratulations to the paramedics, praising them for continuing the mission. Some watchers found that letter more surprising than the initial gift, as it lacked any of the bombast they associated with him. Yet there it was, a simple expression of gratitude, an acknowledgement that the real heroes were on the ground, not in some executive suite. So, if you've made it this far, you've heard how that single day, a day that began with suspicion, ended in a new sense of possibility. The unexpected gift turned out to be not just a philanthropic tool, but also a catalyst for bridging distrust. And while critics remain, as they inevitably do, the local spirit has changed enough that once haters now concede that maybe, just maybe, Trump had offered them a reason to reconsider blanket negativity. By no means does that guarantee universal love or agreement, but it's a shift in perspective. And in a world hungry for examples of real transformation, that might be the biggest takeaway of all. As we near the last lines of this story, let me ask you, have you ever felt your entire perception of someone flip because of a single generous act? Or do you prefer to see consistent evidence before changing your mind? Please share your thoughts in the comments, because these questions get to the core of how we judge or forgive public figures. And here is the final twist. According to certain insiders, Trump's gift wasn't just about healthcare. Tucked inside the administrative compartments of those container clinics was an entire toolkit for educational outreach. Digital tablets loaded with learning programs for kids who can't afford after-school resources. They call it the silent second wave. Volunteers discovered it a few weeks after the clinics started operating, opening a locked drawer and finding brand new devices, instructions on how to set up reading corners, math drills, and language lessons. Another shock wave hit the city, swirling rumors that the gift was bigger than they thought. Could it be Trump recognized that bridging gaps in health and education simultaneously might yield a deeper change? That question remains open, a puzzle piece that might prompt more reflection on the complexities of a figure once deemed purely polarizing. With that revelation, I'll close the tale. Trump's unexpected gift that turned haters into believers was, at face value, a set of container clinics providing crucial health care. But at a deeper level, it was a demonstration that surprising empathy can come from unlikely places. The next time you see or hear about philanthropic acts from individuals you least expect, Remember this story and how a community overcame cynicism once unstoppable. Because if the container clinics taught them anything, it's that sometimes healing runs beyond the physical. Sometimes it heals the spirit of a city as well.